Hi, this is Ray Edwards, the copywriter who writes copy that sells stuff, with a special Ray Edwards crash course in copywriting. Less than 60 minutes to 14 points of writing copy that will sell your stuff faster in larger quantities like never before. As we get near the end of this product, I'll tell you about your reprint rights to the very audio product you're listening to right now, plus the workbook. That's right, you have reprint rights, which means you can use the product. You can sell it for a profit. You can use it as an enticement to get people to sign up for your email list, or you can include it as a bonus, but I'll give you all the details on that a little bit later on. Well, let's get started. First of all, let me thank you for listening, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve you. I promise I'm going to try and cram as much material into this short recording as possible to teach you how to write better copy to sell more of your stuff. Now, if you have questions about my copywriting service, or you'd like to get signed up for my free newsletter that contains lots more tips, tactics, and techniques on copywriting, just go to this website, rayedwardscopywriting.com. It's all one word, of course, rayedwardscopywriting.com. Okay, let's get started on our crash course. Here's what you're going to discover inside this short audio course. And by the way, let me start by saying you should have some PDF notes. It's a simple PDF file with a worksheet for you to take notes on. And if you don't have that yet, then I'll give you a URL you can go to download those notes. rayedwardscopywriting.com/crash course. Now, crash course is all one word and there's no hyphens. rayedwardscopywriting.com/crash course. And there you'll find the PDF notes that you can download. It should be pretty helpful to you. Let's get going. Here's what we're going to learn in this crash course. We're going to learn the 5 basic rules that will empower your copy to sell more stuff for you. Important rules you must know before you start writing your copy. We're also going to find out the 9 most important things in your copy and how to get them right. And then finally, I'm going to share with you a few extra tips, one of which will be 4 books all copywriters must read. Let's start with the basics of what copy is all about. It's really the fuel for your spaceship. You know, just a couple of days ago, we watched the Space Shuttle Discovery lift off, the first space shuttle flight in a long time since the shuttle disaster, and it was inspiring to see. And I was amazed to hear him talk about how much fuel it took to lift that massive spaceship into orbit around the Earth. And then I started thinking about all of the preparation, all of the work that goes into that grand and glorious event we call a space shuttle launch. And it occurred to me that, in a way, and admittedly it's a bit of a stretch, but in a way, your copy is fuel for your spaceship. If you think of your business as your ship, copy is what fuels it. Think about this. Think about all of the books, all of the audio programs, all of the billboards, movies, TV shows, newspapers, newsletters, letters, postcards, bus benches, bus boards, magazines. Think of all those things and take away the words. What are you left with? Not a lot. Now, pictures and layout and visuals are very, very important, but they don't get the story told. What gets the story told and what makes sales happen and what causes education to take place and entertainment is copy, because it's all copy, my friends. Every single word of it. That's what copy's about. And that leads to the basics of fueling your spaceships. It's a 3-item list. So if you don't have the notes, you might want to jot these down. But if you do have the notes, just fill in the blanks. But still, I want you to participate. Come on. Whatever you're doing, put it aside. I want your focus. Play full out with me here. Get this message. Integrate this information. I'm going to give you some practical tips about how to use it, so when you're done, you won't have just listened. You will have taken action. That'll make a difference in your business, in your practice, and in your life. Okay, the basics. Fuel for your spaceship. Number 1, copywriting is the ultimate upside leverage. Now, what's upside leverage? Well, we know what leverage is, and in many cases, it has a downside. What do you think of when I say the word leverage? Well, if you think of real estate and finance and business, you probably think of debt, using other people's money to get the job done. And with debt, with regular leverage, comes potential downside, right? Because if you don't make the payments on the loan that you made, guess what happens? They come take your stuff. That's what happens. That's downside. And your credit rating is bad then, and that's downside. So those are the downsides of leverage. Also, if you got to make that payment every month, it eats into your income. It reduces your profits. Again, that's downside. Upside leverage is leverage that has virtually no downside. And I believe one of the greatest sources of upside leverage is your sales copy, your advertising and marketing. Now, why would I say that? Well, let's take an example. Let's say that you place an ad and you pay $100 for this ad. And you run the ad and you wait a week and you make back $100. Well, the ad's paid for itself, obviously, but that's all it did. Now, what if you change the copy on the ad? Somehow you change the offer you make or the headline or the words, the sequence, and what have you, the copy. And suddenly the ad now has a lot more appeal to the people who hear it. And so more people listening decide to take action. And let's say that 5 people now order from your ad and your ad makes $500. Is that better than getting $100 back? You bet it is. That's upside leverage. You didn't spend any more money. You just changed something about advertising you were already using, and you got the payoff. You got the upside leverage. The ultimate source of that, I believe, is copywriting. Number 2, improve your leverage through testing and tracking. All this really means is pay attention to what's working in your advertising and marketing. Keep doing the things that work and throw out the losers. It's pretty easy. The simplest form of testing and tracking is you take 2 pieces of copy. Let's say they're on your website. You have 2 versions of your website. You put traffic in front of each of those versions of your website, and then you calculate the conversion rate. And to make this simple, let's say you have 100 visitors to a web page, and 5 people take the action you want them to take. Maybe it's buying your product. Maybe it's signing up for your email newsletter. That means you have a 5% conversion rate. Do you get it? 5% or 5 out of 100 people took the action. So you have 2 different web pages now, and you put 100 people in front of each of those web pages. In other words, you wait until you have 100 visitors, and you see which one gets the most actions. If one of them gets 1 subscriber to your email newsletter and the other one gets 10 subscribers, obviously the winner is the one with the 10% conversion rate. That one becomes your control. And then you just put up another website and you test it against the control, and you keep picking the winner, you keep keeping the winner and throwing out the losers. Testing and tracking is that simple. Number 3, the only way to test is one thing at a time. Don't go change 5 or 6 things on your web page. Just change, or on your sales copy if you're sending out direct mail letter, or in your space ad if you're advertising in a newspaper or magazine. Just change one thing. First, get enough views of your ad to know you have reliable information about your conversion ratio, and then change one thing, and then get the same number of views and see which one wins. We'll get more into that a little bit later. Okay, the next section, how to write copy that sells stuff. And by the way, that's my unique selling proposition. You should have one of those for your business or website. What's your unique selling proposition? For Domino's Pizza, it's delivered in 30 minutes or less, or it's free. That's their unique selling proposition. For me, it's I write copy that sells stuff. You need to know what yours is. Let's start with the 5 rules to empower your copy to sell stuff for you. Rule number 1, be the customer. You remember Caddyshack, the movie with Chevy Chase in it? And at one point, he says, be the ball, Danny. You've got to be the ball. And while it was humorous and funny and kind of a riff on some of the mystical thinking of the time and Zen Buddhism and the Est movement and all of that, if you remember those things, there is some truth to this, and it applies to your marketing. You need to be the customer. And what I mean by that is you've got to get inside the customer's head. If you're writing copy and it's centered on you and what you want to happen, then you're not going to break through to the customer. You're not getting a message across to them. And you're probably nodding your head and saying, oh, yeah, I get that. That's right. And yet so many companies do it. I mean, how many websites have we seen that start off with, welcome to my website? Really? Okay, it's your website. I guess we've figured that out. What's next? I've been in business for 20 years doing this profession, and I'm the best, and I have the biggest market share, and And I'm exaggerating for effect a little bit, but I think you've seen this kind of copy, haven't you? Banks and hospitals and insurance companies, big institutional type advertisers like this are really enamored with copy that talks about how wonderful they are. We're a bank that's been serving the inland Northwest for 30 years with reliability, dependability, and attachment to the community that is seconded by none. Well, I think you get the idea. That copy is all about the advertiser and not about the customer. And it doesn't work. You've got to get inside the customer's head. You've got to be the customer. You've got to know, who are they? How old are they? Are they male or female? Do they have children? Jobs? What kind of jobs do they have? How much money do they make? What neighborhoods do they live in? What kind of a house? What kind of furniture do they have in their house? What TV shows do they watch? Radio programs do they listen to? Movies do they go to? Newspapers, magazines, books, articles do they read? What is the thing that keeps them awake at night? What worries them? Those are the kind of things you need to know thoroughly and completely. Only then can you be the customer and write to the customer then. You know, it's an old cliche, but it's true. If your customer has a headache, you need to be the aspirin for that headache. And there's a reason that we have cliches. Most of the time, they contain a real strong kernel of truth. So think about that. What's the pain that your customer experiences, and how can you relieve it? Because that leads to number 2 on the 5 rules to empower your copy to sell stuff for you. People don't buy products. They buy solutions. People don't buy a suit. They buy looking good. People don't buy a car. They buy getting to work on time. People don't buy a hammer and nails. They buy holes. The point is, you've got to figure out what's the solution that people are looking for. They could care less about your product. What they want is an answer to their problem. Which leads to number 3 on the 5 rules. It's all about the customer. And if it sounds like I'm on a bit of a tear here, if it sounds like that's a theme, well, it is. Absolutely. It's all about the customer. You've got to go through your copy and make sure that none of it is about you and all of it's about the customer. Now, don't get confused. If you go to my website, for instance, at rayedwardscopywriting.com, and that's just one of the websites that I have online, this one happens to be targeted toward people who need copy for their product or service. And I'm writing that letter on the website with the specific intention of showing people that I know how to write copy that convinces. I know how to write copy that sells stuff, that'll sell their stuff. And if you read that website, you'll find that there's a section where I talk about me. And you might be saying, Ray, you were just telling us that it's not about you, it's about the customer. There are conditions under which you need to give the customer assurances about who you are and why you're qualified to do the work for them or to provide the service to them or to provide the product to them. In that context, it is about the customer. So you've got to be able to make that discernment. Number 4, immerse yourself in the offer. The offer is what it's all about. And what I mean by the offer is specifically, what are you selling them? If you boil down your direct mail sales letter or your commercial or your website or whatever marketing you're doing, what is it that you're offering people? Now, let's say that you are a tailor and you make clothing for people. And, of course, we know that people are buying looking good. We've got to know that. They're not buying a product. They're buying, I'm going to look great in those clothes. But what is your specific offer? Let's say, for instance, that you're a tailor of men's suits. Your offer might sound something like this. Come to my shop. I will measure you for the perfect fitting suit that will make you look fantastic. And I will deliver it to you within 14 days for only $397.50. That's the offer. It's the specific product or service that you're offering to sell to your customers and the price at which you are selling it to them. Now, you might include other things in your offer. You might enumerate why it's such a great value. I will sell you this suit for this price, but not only am I selling you a suit, you have the confidence of knowing that you're going to love the way you look in the suit, or I'm going to give you all your money back, or I'll tailor it again until it fits you perfectly. You have the confidence of knowing that I'll be using the highest quality fabric and stitching. You have the confidence of knowing that we will deliver the suit to your place of business or to your home and fit you in it personally. You get the idea. You want to build as much value into the offer as you possibly can. Immerse yourself in the offer. If you don't have a great offer, you're not going to have a sale. People aren't going to buy from you. There are other options. Number 5, always price to value. You want to present your product in terms of what it's worth, not in terms of what it costs. In other words, you don't want to be the Walmart of whatever your particular market segment is. You don't want to be the absolute cheapest solution to this problem. What you want is to demonstrate the value of your services as opposed to your price. And I'll give you an example from my own business. I charge a fairly decent price tag for writing a piece of sales copy, especially for a piece of website sales copy. And the way I explain and justify that price to people is simply like this. If I can write copy for you that once you put it up makes you an extra $5,000 this month, isn't it worth having paid me $5,000 to write that piece of copy? Because you have the asset of the copy now delivering you an extra $5,000 a month every month, month in and month out. In the course of a year, that's an extra $60,000. So in truth, what I'm doing is asking you to invest $5,000 to make $60,000. Isn't that worth the investment? That's the kind of proposal you want to be able to put in front of your clients. Let's move on to the 9 most important things in your copy and how to get them right. These are crucial. These are things you must make sure you get correct in any sales copy that you write. And as you know, my contention is it's all sales copy. Let's start with number 1. The most important copy is the headline. The headline, in fact, is the copy that sells the copy. Now, for most sales pieces, the headline is going to be the copy that's at the top of the letter or the top of the one sheet or brochure or space ad. It's in bigger print, and it sort of sums up the entire benefit of the sales piece all in one great sentence. And the idea is you're only trying to make one sale with the headline. You're trying to sell your prospect on reading the rest of the copy. Let me give you some examples. Some examples of classic headlines that have worked extremely well, and these will come from some direct mail pieces. This is a piece that was written for the Wall Street Underground, and it's directed at investors. This is the headline. The maverick investment genius helps ordinary investors turn falling markets into millions of dollars. Now, if you're an investor who's concerned about the fact that the market is falling, that headline is going to get your attention. You're going to read the rest of that sales piece because you want to know, well, what is this all about? I need to know what this is all about. Here's another classic headline that has made lots of sales over the years. It comes from a sales letter that has been mailed many, many times and made millions of dollars for the folks mailing it. The headline is, "What never, ever to eat on an airplane. The dirtiest, deadliest airline in the whole world." Now, this is an almost perfect headline because it really draws in the kind of person that it's targeted for. And by the way, that headline is for a Bottom Line newsletter. Bottom Line Personal is a newsletter that's filled with little insider tidbits about all kinds of different information. Stuff like how to get the best treatment in hospitals, and how to find out if somebody has a past, for instance, if you're dating someone or going into business with them, and how to investigate them and so forth. It's that kind of eclectic newsletter, and it has millions of subscribers and has made millions of dollars for the publisher. And that headline appeals to the person who likes that kind of information. The kind of person that would read Bottom Line Personal is the kind of person who wants to know what never ever to eat on an airplane. So they definitely would read the rest of the copy and then learn about this magazine that they would have to have. Here's a headline that is written for sport fishermen. The headline is, "Trout spoken here, also bass, salmon, and bonefish." Crazy for fly fishing? Send for your complimentary issue of Fly Fisherman, the best therapy for victims of the incurable madness described below. Fantastic headline. All of these headlines have this one thing in common, even though they're written to different markets. They're the copy that convinces you to read the rest of the copy. Number 3 on our list of the 9 most important things in your copy and how to get them right. Rewrite. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped number 2. That's very important. Number 2, write your copy after you fire your inner editor. Okay, your first draft of your copy you should write all in one fell swoop. You should sit down and write it all out. Either write it out by hand on a legal pad or type it on a computer or dictate it. If you're not a typist or a great writer, or if you have carpal tunnel syndrome, go ahead and dictate it. Whatever it is, you want to get out all of your main points with passion, enthusiasm. Get that fire in your belly about what it is that you're selling or what it is that you do, and get the copy down after you fire your inner editor. And my point is, you don't want to be second-guessing yourself while you're writing your initial draft of your copy, whether it's by dictation or typing or writing longhand, whatever it is. Don't edit yourself. It's not the time. Say everything that comes into your head. Write everything that comes into your mind, however ridiculous or silly it sounds. Even if it's wrong, even if the facts are wrong, even if the claims are overreaching, now is not the time to edit. Get all of that stuff onto paper. Fire your inner editor. We'll get to editing later. Okay, number 3 on the list of the 9 most important things in your copy and how to get them right. Rewrite for strategy. Then rewrite again for style. Okay, strategy is how you structure your copy. And there is a structure to good copy that sells stuff. There's the pre-head. It's a little line that goes above your headline to catch people's interest. It might say something like, "Attention, homemakers, how many times has this happened to you?" That's a pre-head. And then there's the headline. And then there's the subhead, a heading that comes under the headline. Then there's the lead. That's what opens up the letter and catches someone's interest. And then you go into the different blocks of your letter, which are things like why you should listen to me. You're talking to the prospect or the customer now, and here are reasons why you should believe what I say. Here's how I invented this product or solution. Then you get into here are the benefits and features of this product or solution, how it's going to make your life better. Then you have your guarantee section where you assure them that if they're not satisfied, you're going to give them their money back. And then you give them a compelling reason to act now. If you act now, I have these extra bonus items. I only have a limited number of them, and I'll be able to send this along with the product that you're ordering. So there's a whole structure to this, and we don't have time to get into that in this particular recording section. I would urge you, at the very least, pick up a book by Dan Kennedy called The Ultimate Sales Letter, which goes through the whole structure of how to write sales letters. And it's a good primer in how to do that. Then you rewrite for style. That's where you proofread. You go back and you say, well, those phrases seem a little clumsy. I want to reword that. I want to rewrite that. I want to smooth that over, make it flow better. You're rewriting for style. Number 4, answer all objections. Long copy wins almost every time. Now, this is number 4 on our list of the 9 most important things in your copy and how to get them right. Answer all objections. Here's the reason why. Advertising, and especially sales copy like the type that we're discussing, is nothing more than salesmanship in print. But here's the thing. When you're selling to someone personally, face-to-face, you get the opportunity to make your presentation, to talk about their problem and your solution to it, and then to answer their objections. They may say to you, well, if I buy this solution, will it indeed work in my situation? Because my situation is unique. Let me tell you why. Or they may say to you, I know of another solution that's a lot less expensive, and I think I'd like to go in that direction. Or they may say to you, I'd love to buy your device, but I don't have enough money to buy it right now, so I'll have to wait until later. If you're sitting there with them face-to-face, you can answer those objections. You can say, well, here's the reasons why you don't want to buy that other solution, because you might not know it, but it has these pitfalls and doesn't address these critical problems. Or you might say, well, gosh, I know you don't have all the money right now, but that's okay. We have an easy payment plan. Let me explain to you how it works. You can't do that in written copy because you don't have face-to-face interaction. So what you have to do is anticipate each possible objection and answer it in your copy. Because I promise you, interested customers will read through the copy looking for the answers to those questions. And if you can answer them all, guess what happens? Ka-ching! They buy. So answer all the objections. And by the way, this is why long copy always wins over short copy. And you probably don't know about this debate, but there is a great debate. People saying long copy doesn't work, don't write long sales letters, people don't have the time to read them, especially on the internet. Well, not true. They have the time to read them if they're interested in what you're offering. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been searching for a particular kind of service? Maybe it was web hosting, or maybe it was copywriting, or maybe it was someone to coach you in how to build your business. At any rate, did you go to that person or company or service's website and thoroughly read every word searching for the answers to all of your questions and objections because you wanted to be sure before you parted with your hard-earned money that the solution they were offering was the one that was right for you. Am I right? Don't get me right if I'm not right. Well, of course, when you're interested, you want to know every single thing. You want to know every answer. So the copy doesn't seem long to you. Now, if you go to a website and you find that it's about something you're not interested in, then these folks that say long copy doesn't work are absolutely right. If I'm not interested, I'm not going to read your long copy. It just makes sense, right? So long copy wins as long as you put it in front of a target market that's interested in what you have to offer, or that's interested in a solution to this problem that you solve. Okay, number 5 on the 9 most important things about your copy and how to get them right. Proofread using this $1 million tool you already have. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to go get one. You don't have to ask somebody how to use it. You've already got it. You already know how to use it. It's called your voice. Just read the copy out loud. I give this advice to everybody I talk to about copywriting, and I would estimate that 99.9% of the people that I talk to ignore the advice, or they gloss over it. Now, this is something that I picked up in my work in radio because, of course, any copy that we were dealing with, we were reading. We were reading and interpreting that copy to be recorded and played back on the radio to sell stuff, right? And we quickly learned if the copy wasn't well written because you would stumble over it or you'd mispronounce words or it wouldn't make any sense, and you had to read it in such a way that it did make sense. And so it was a pretty quick way to figure out what the problems were with the copy. And so I'm telling you, this is how to proofread your copy and make sure that it works. Read it out loud. Read every word out loud. Read it in a conversational tone of delivery. Don't read it super fast, just trying to get through it, because that won't work, okay? Trust me on this. This will help you enormously with your copy. Anything that you stumble over, any words or phrases that seem awkward, anything that you have to go back and read out loud 2 or 3 times to make it sound like it makes sense, that's a clue. That's a clue that says, rewrite this because it ain't working. All right, number 6 on the list. Do a test on a small list. Because now you've written your copy, you've edited for strategy, you've edited for style, you've proofread it again, reading it out loud. Now it's time to put it in front of people. But don't show it to your best friend or your girlfriend or your boyfriend and ask them, hey, what do you think about this? That's not a valid test. Here's the only valid test of your copy. Put it in front of a prospect and see if they buy. That's the only way to know if it works. So you get a small list. Maybe if you've got an in-house mailing list, email, direct mail, whatever it is, you send it out to, say, 100 of those folks. Or if you have a bigger list, then I would urge you to put it in front of at least 300. That, to me, is the minimum valid test. Now, other people say different figures. Statisticians and research people will tell you 600. That's, by the way, if you note Gallup polls, when they quote a Gallup poll, you'll notice they either quote that they polled 600 or 1,000 people. They never go over 1,000 because the margin of accuracy does not increase very much past that point. So I wouldn't say you have to have that many people in your test. 300 is a good number. If 100's all you can get, it's a good start. It's probably indicative, if not conclusive. Okay, so you put it in front of a list. And maybe you're running an ad in the newspaper, maybe you're sending an email, it doesn't matter. But you see what happens. If you get at least a 1% response, if you get at least 1 out of 100 people who are buying from you or signing up for your newsletter or calling you or whatever the desired result is that you're after, just one, remember, just one desired result, then you know you have a good piece of copy that's working for you. Now, proof it one more time. And this time, you're not looking to make big changes because you already know it's working, right? So you don't want to change anything. But you want to look for misspellings and things like that, mistakes that you can fix. And now, I want you to test 2 different headlines in front of 2 more lists. Ideally, each of them 300, so another 600 people. And see which one wins. Now you've got a control, a proven winner. It works. It's been proofread to death. And now you can send it out to your bigger lists. Never, by the way, item number 8 was test 2 different headlines. Item number 9, never ditch the control. Your winning piece of copy, the one that produces the most results for you, is the control. Never ditch the control. You'll be tempted to. You'll get tired of it. You'll get bored with it. Now, if it stops working, if it stops being the control, if you were getting a 3% response rate and then suddenly it goes to 0.2, okay, now it's time for a new letter. And I would suggest always testing against the control. Once you've got a control that's getting you a 2 to 3% or better response, You keep that. That's your control. Now go start a completely different letter. Or just tweak different parts of it and see how high you can get the response rate. But just remember, don't throw out a control that's working. As long as it's working, keep sending it. Keep using the copy until it stops working. Okay. So there you go. Let me run through the 9 most important things in your copy and how to get them right, just to make sure that I covered them all for you. 1, the most important copy is the headline. It's the copy that sells the copy. 2, write your copy after you fire your inner editor. 3, rewrite for strategy, then rewrite again for style. 4, answer all objections. Long copy wins almost every time. Number 5, proofread using this $1 million tool you already have, your voice. Number 6, do a test on a small list. Number 7, now proofread one more time. Remember, on number 7, you're just looking for mistakes. Don't make big changes because you've got a winning letter already. Number 8, test 2 different headlines. And remember to test against the same sized list, not the same list that's already seen this letter. You want 300 fresh names for each of these tests. And then number 9, never ditch the control. Keep using it if it's working. Okay, well, there you go. This has been a crash course in copywriting. It's the basics. Admittedly, we didn't cover everything. There's tons of things we didn't talk about. But this should give you some basics that you can at least use to improve your copy that you have right now and improve those response rates. Here are some books that everybody who writes copy should read. And even if you're not going to write your own copy, but you're going to hire a copywriter, I think these are good books for you to read because it'll help you know the quality of stuff that you're getting from your copywriter. Okay? So here are the books. 1, The Element of Style by Strunk and White. This is a standard for all writers. And the White, by the way, is E.B. White. You may know him as the guy who wrote Charlotte's Web. This is a fantastic book for all writers. It's very short, and it's full of great information. And if you only get one book about writing, get this book, The Elements of Style by Strunk and White. Here are the other books. The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. Tested Advertising Methods by John Caples, and you spell John's last name Caples. And The Robert Collier Letter Book by Robert Collier. That one may be a bit harder to find, but if you do a search for it online, you'll find it. It's probably going to be a little bit expensive, but it's a classic amongst direct response copywriters, and it's full of great information. Some of the examples may seem a little antiquated, but trust me when I tell you the principles still apply. That's the Robert Collier Letter Book I'm talking about. So here are a couple of special offers that I'm making only to people listening to this audio program. Offer number 1, if you're looking for copywriting and consulting services, and you'd like to employ me, which, by the way, I think is a pretty darn good idea, I'm happy to offer you a 10% discount. Now, this is not for everybody. My copywriting services and consulting services are not cheap. However, I think they're a fantastic investment in your business, and if you're able to do that, we should talk. Now, if you're not, perhaps you're just starting out and you need to conserve money, or perhaps you just like to write copy and you want to write your own copy, then I urge you to do that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you're looking, however, for a copywriter and you'd like to talk to me, you can get a 10% discount just by mentioning this audio program. And there's really only one condition, that is you must book at least 3 weeks in advance. By the way, if you book out further than 6 months in advance, I have a further discount, but we can discuss that later on. Go to rayedwardscopywriting.com to contact me and talk about getting your 10% discount off my copywriting or consulting services. Number 2, I'll offer a 10% discount on my forthcoming audio CD home study course called How to Write Copy That Sells. Now, there's one caveat here. When you're listening to this audio recording, remember, I'm recording this at a time before the copywriting course has been released, which at this point is planned to be August 21, 2005. If you order before it's released, you'll get a 10% discount by going to a special web address I'm about to give you. Now, if you hear this recording after the program is released, the 10% discount will no longer be in effect. And I apologize for that. It's just the nature of recording things and then having people listen to them weeks or months or even years later. Okay, fair enough? Good. This 3D audio home study course, by the way, which is in post-production right now, and which should ship around August 21, includes a step-by-step system for writing your copy. It also includes a workbook that walks you step-by-step through the sales copywriting process. And remember, if you pre-order, I'll give you a 10% discount. The course will sell for $97. So if you'd like to save $9.70 off that price, order it now by going to rayedwardscopywriting.com/audio How to Write Copy. That's one word. RayEdwardsCopywriting.com/how to write copy. And don't forget, you have reprint rights to the product you're listening to right now, Ray Edwards Crash Course in Copywriting. Now, what does reprint rights mean? Or what rights am I granting? Well, it means that you can sell this product for a profit if you want to. You could put up a page and charge money for it. That's okay with me. You don't have to give me any of the profits or anything like that. You could use it as an enticement to get people to sign up for your email newsletter, for instance. Or you could use it as a free bonus, or just an added gift that you give to your subscribers or customers that you think might be helpful to them. In whatever way it might help you, you can use this product. You have the rights to do that. You don't have to ask me. Now, what this does not include is you don't get the copyrights to the product. In other words, you don't own the copyright itself. You don't have master rights, which means you can't change the product in any way. You have to leave it intact. You can't edit the audio, and you can't edit the PDF files. But as long as you leave the product intact, and as long as you don't post it on any websites that have anything to do with hate or pornography or gambling or anything illegal, immoral, or unethical, you have the reprint rights to the product. And if there's something I haven't covered and you have a question, just get in contact with me. If you have an idea, most likely I'll say yes. Well, thank you so much for the privilege of serving you on this audio crash course in copywriting. I truly appreciate the opportunity. And study hard. Read these books. Go back over the audio recording. Look at your notes. And I believe that if you apply yourself carefully, you too can write copy that sells stuff. Now go make it happen.